I must take that as a welcome to understand how our natural resources are being exploited and how they are benefiting our community.
We know on your side you're a big group, you have your processes, and we encourage you to expedite your processes as you encourage us to expedite our own rigidities here.
Something seismic is happening in Africa, and the world isn't ready. In a bold and unexpected move, Namibia's newly elected president has broken ranks with diplomatic tradition, not only aligning himself with Burkina Faso's firebrand leader Ibrahim Traoré, but echoing his explosive calls for sovereignty, justice, and a total reset of the world order. At first glance, they couldn't be more different. One, a statesman from southern Africa with fresh international credentials. The other, a 30-something military captain from the Sahel, already shaking the ground with anti-colonial rhetoric and revolutionary fire. But what unites them? A shared belief that Africa has been betrayed, exploited, ignored.
Just days after her inauguration on March 21st, Namibia's new president Nandi Ndaitwah has wasted no time flexing her muscle, sending shockwaves through the corridors of Western power. Picture this, a leader who, like Captain Traoré, isn't here to play nice with the old colonial playbook. While Traoré has been kicking out French troops and reclaiming Burkina Faso's gold from neo-colonial clutches, Nandi Ndaitwah is stepping up with equal audacity in Namibia. Her moves are loud, they're proud, and they're unmistakably African.
Now, side by side, they're not just speaking truth to power. They're calling out the world's biggest players for what they are: global cowards, complicit in plundering African wealth while masking it in aid, democracy, and partnerships. In a stunning joint address that's already being suppressed on certain platforms, the two leaders pull no punches. They name names, they expose deals, they accuse major powers of economic sabotage, environmental theft, and even modern colonization in disguise. This isn't just a headline. This is a moment in history. Welcome to the front line of Africa's Great Awakening. Let's dive into what was said, what it really means, and what the world is so afraid of.
We have been and we are the first development partner of Zambia. We will remain strongly engaged. That's also the message that we want to share with you today. As you know, now in this current financial framework, 2021-2027, we are providing 500 million euros in grants.
When I said with our resources and our population, we are just too few to be poor.
Namibia's newly elected president did not hesitate to make his presence felt. Within just his second week in office, he stunned not only Africa, but the world by realigning Namibia's foreign and domestic policies in a direction that defies decades of Western-centric diplomacy. Standing shoulder to shoulder with Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader Ibrahim Traoré, the Namibian leader signaled a tectonic shift in African geopolitics. This is not just another presidential transition. It marks a moment of continental awakening, where the whispers of dissent have become bold declarations of defiance. The message is clear. Africa is no longer waiting for permission. It is reclaiming agency. Revolutionary beginnings. The new Namibian president brings a background shaped by grassroots activism and military strategy, embodying a younger generation of African leaders determined to break free from the traditional diplomatic playbook dictated by Washington, Paris, or London. Unwilling to bow to external pressures, he has boldly aligned himself ideologically and strategically with Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso, one of Africa's most outspoken critics of neo-colonial interference. Traoré, who came to power in 2022, has made waves with his assertive stance on self-determination. He expelled foreign troops, overhauled the gold mining sector to ensure greater control for Burkina Faso, and steered the country toward a more Pan-African outlook. His leadership, characterized by defiance against external meddling, has inspired a wave of solidarity across the continent. Namibia's president, it seems, has been influenced by Traoré's unapologetic rhetoric and actions, now adopting a similarly bold tone in his own governance. The alignment between these two leaders marks a significant shift in Africa's geopolitical direction, emphasizing sovereignty, independence, and a break from colonial legacies. This partnership, rooted in shared values of self-determination, signals a new era of African leadership, unafraid to challenge the status quo and assert the continent's rightful place on the global stage.
Namibia just flipped the script, and it's all thanks to its brand new president, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. She's not here to play nice with the West, and trust me, world leaders are already feeling the heat. Think bold, think unapologetic. That's the kind of energy she's bringing, very much in the same fearless lane as Burkina Faso's captain Ibrahim Traoré. In just a short time, she's made it crystal clear. She's on a mission. First move, she kicked out more than 500 Americans who didn't have proper visas. Then she opened Namibia's doors to fellow Africans by removing visa restrictions, reshuffled the country's oil and gas game.
Global cowards, a mic drop moment. In a powerful press conference in Windhoek, Namibia's capital, the president launched a blistering attack on what he called global cowards who masquerade as saviors. Though he didn't explicitly name them, his targets were clear: Western powers like the United States and France, as well as UN agencies often accused of being instruments of neo-colonial control. He accused these entities of selectively supporting democratic regimes that aligned with their interests, undermining elections that didn't, and weaponizing foreign aid to manipulate African governments. His unfiltered rhetoric struck a chord across the continent, electrifying audiences and sparking an outpouring of support on social media. The message was clear: Africa is done playing by foreign rules. Burkina Faso's Ibrahim Traoré immediately reposted the speech, captioning it with, "Africa has found her voice." This simple message acted as a rallying cry, fueling conversations and solidarity among African nations. While some leaders voiced support, others, wary of their ties to Western powers, watched with unease. The speech marked a turning point in Africa's collective stance on sovereignty and self-determination. Shared history, shared frustration. Both Ibrahim Traoré and Namibia's president, both under the age of 45, have witnessed firsthand the destructive effects of exploitative foreign policies. Growing up in countries rich in resources, diamonds, uranium, gold, they've seen how foreign powers extract these treasures, enriching their own economies while leaving African nations mired in poverty. Namibia's diamond fields and uranium mines have long been under the control of multinational corporations, with profits siphoned off into offshore accounts in places like Switzerland and boardrooms in London. Similarly, Burkina Faso's gold, which should have fueled local prosperity, has instead enriched foreign interests, leaving local communities impoverished and marginalized. These leaders do not view these imbalances as unfortunate outcomes. They see them as deliberate systems of modern-day colonization, designed to perpetuate African dependency.
President Nandi-Ndaitwah isn't playing. Immigration officers are moving fast, serving notices to American nationals who overstayed or didn't follow the rules. This isn't chaos, it's structure. It's Namibia showing the world that it won't tolerate disrespect. But don't get it twisted. This move isn't about hostility. It's about fairness. It's about saying, if we follow your rules, you'll follow ours too.
Their response to this systemic injustice is clear: a new kind of Pan-Africanism. Not a distant theoretical ideal, but a concrete policy direction rooted in self-determination, sovereignty, and economic independence. This new vision calls for the full control of Africa's resources, ensuring that profits benefit local populations rather than foreign entities. Traoré and Namibia's president are committed to dismantling the old order and building a future where Africa is not just a source of wealth for others, but a self-sustaining continent standing firm in its sovereignty. Through this bold approach, they aim to reshape the continent's future and confront the legacy of exploitation head-on. The big reveal, exposing the past. In a historic and controversial national address broadcast across Africa, Namibia's president stunned the continent by declassifying sensitive documents from prior administrations. The disclosures, which many have called an unprecedented act of transparency and political defiance, peeled back the veil on decades of covert dealings and foreign interference in Namibian affairs. Among the revelations were oil exploration contracts that granted multinational corporations access to Namibia's natural resources without offering a single royalty to the state. These agreements, often signed under opaque conditions, fueled public outrage over resource exploitation and economic injustice.
Namibia's new president Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah is sending shockwaves again, leaving the Western leaders shaking and panicking. Like a blazing comet, she has burst onto the global stage, joining the ranks of fearless Pan-Africanist leaders, like Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traoré. With a steely resolve and a heart burning for justice, President Nandi-Ndaitwah has unleashed a series of audacious policies that have left the world stunned. From deporting over 500 American nationals without visas to championing visa-free travel for Africans, restructuring the oil and gas sector, and demanding an apology from Germany for the Namibian genocide. She's not just leading Namibia, she's rewriting the rules of African sovereignty.
Equally alarming was the disclosure of military training agreements with Western contractors who operated in the shadows. These deals were not publicly debated or approved by Parliament, raising serious questions about national sovereignty and the militarization of domestic security. The president also exposed export permits issued to a Dubai-based shell company, which had been quietly extracting raw materials under lax oversight. The company's operations pointed to a systemic failure in regulatory enforcement and a disturbing pattern of economic colonization. However, the most explosive claim came in the form of classified intelligence, suggesting that certain foreign-funded NGOs operating in Namibia were covertly gathering intelligence. While publicly promoting democracy and human rights, these organizations were accused of spying on local activists and feeding information to private security firms and foreign embassies. This revelation sparked diplomatic uproar from Brussels to Washington, with some governments denying involvement, while others remained silent. The president's speech has drawn both praise and condemnation, hailed by supporters as a bold stand for sovereignty, and criticized by others as reckless diplomacy. Regardless of political leaning, the revelations have shaken Namibia's political landscape and ignited a broader conversation across Africa about foreign influence, transparency, and the true cost of international aid. The Traoré Playbook. Namibia's president is clearly modeling his leadership on Ibrahim Traoré's approach, drawing inspiration from the bold actions that have made Burkina Faso a symbol of African resistance. Since taking power, Traoré has expelled French troops, nationalized the country's gold mines, and banned foreign NGOs suspected of political interference. These steps have marked a dramatic shift towards self-determination and sovereignty. Now, Namibia seems ready to follow a similar path. The president's rhetoric, defense strategies, and overall governance style bear the unmistakable imprint of Traoré's influence. He has adopted a fierce, unapologetic stance against foreign meddling, underscoring a commitment to reclaiming Africa's agency and resources. The message from Namibia is loud and clear. Africa will no longer outsource its sovereignty or allow foreign powers to dictate its future. With this alignment, Namibia is positioning itself as a key player in the broader Pan-African movement for self-determination and independence. Pan-African Shield Pact, from idea to implementation. In a bold move toward continental sovereignty, a groundbreaking proposal has emerged from a new alliance of African nations, the Pan-African Shield Pact. Spearheaded by Namibia, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, this initiative seeks to establish a shared military and intelligence alliance rooted in African priorities and free from Western oversight. High-level meetings in Accra and Algiers have already laid the groundwork for the pact, with early discussions focusing on joint defense strategies and coordinated intelligence sharing.
President Nandi-Ndaitwah isn't mincing words. She's called on Germany to apologize unequivocally and engage meaningfully on reparations. While talks have dragged since 2015, with a 2021 joint declaration rejected by many Namibians, she's breathing new life into the fight. Her resolve is unshakable. Justice for the descendants of the genocide's victims is non-negotiable. This isn't just about Namibia, it's about Africa's broader reckoning with colonial legacies.
The SHIELD Pact's core objectives reflect a growing demand for self-determination across the continent. First, it aims to protect Africa's vast natural resources from foreign exploitation, a response to decades of extractive contracts that have drained the continent while enriching outsiders. Second, it seeks to dismantle foreign-backed paramilitary proxies and insurgencies, which have fueled instability in the Sahel and beyond, under the guise of counterterrorism operations. Third, and perhaps most importantly, the pact aspires to construct an independent, African-owned security architecture, free from NATO influence, US military bases, or foreign surveillance networks. This initiative arrives at a pivotal moment as global powers compete for access to African resources and strategic footholds. The Pan-African SHIELD Pact represents a significant step away from dependency toward a new era of continental defense cooperation. If successful, it could serve as a continental firewall against neo-colonial tactics masked as counterterrorism and development aid. Critics worry the alliance may provoke backlash from powerful international actors, but its architects remain undeterred. To its supporters, the pact is not merely defensive. It is a declaration of African unity, self-governance, and refusal to be pawns in global power games. As the framework evolves, the SHIELD Pact could reshape Africa's geopolitical posture for generations to come. Economic U-turn, renegotiating exploitation. Namibia's government has taken a bold step with an unprecedented economic overhaul. The president announced that the country will renegotiate all existing contracts related to resource extraction, including diamonds, uranium, and oil. Any company unwilling to accept a minimum of 40% national ownership will be shown the door. This move could result in massive financial losses for international mining giants. But the president's message was clear: if it's not fair, it's not staying. In a move echoing the reforms of Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso, Namibia is determined to redirect the wealth generated by these resources into sectors that benefit its people. The newfound revenues will be invested in infrastructure, education, and the nationalization of energy and transport systems. The president's decision signals the end of profit-driven exploitation, prioritizing people over profits. Namibia's bold stance marks a new chapter in its quest for true sovereignty and equitable economic development.
Namibia's newly inaugurated President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has stepped onto the stage of history with the boldness of a lioness joining the ranks of Burkina Faso's indomitable Captain Ibrahim Traoré in a fearless stand against the lingering shadows of colonial oppression. This is no timid whisper from the margins. This is a thunderous declaration of sovereignty, a clarion call to the West, that Africa will no longer bow to manipulation or exploitation. Let me paint the picture for you, my people. Just weeks into her presidency, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, affectionately known as NNN, has locked eyes with Germany, that old colonial spectre, and demanded what we've all known was long overdue: an apology.
Catalyst for change in political landscape. None of this would be possible without the immense support of Namibia's youth, who played a pivotal role in bringing the president to office. The under-30 population, politically active and digitally savvy, turned out in record numbers to back a leader who resonated with their aspirations for real change. This generation, more connected and aware than ever, is not afraid of disruption. They demand transformation. Having grown up in a world where they've witnessed the failings of past administrations, this youth cohort is questioning the status quo like never before. They are immune to the manipulation of propaganda and have little tolerance for the complacency that has allowed foreign interests to exploit their nation's resources. Their frustration has transformed into action, and now they see a reflection of their desires for a new Africa in their president. Globally, however, the reaction has been more cautious, if not dismissive. Western media outlets have either ignored the unfolding events or painted them in a negative light, framing the president's actions as authoritarian. think tanks have raised concerns about destabilization, while leaked EU embassy cables revealed a growing anxiety about losing a key regional partner in Namibia. The US State Department's response was notably vague. "We are monitoring the situation closely." In essence, the global powers appear caught off guard, with no clear strategy to address the rise of this movement. As Africa begins to assert its independence, the West seems uncertain about how to respond to this growing wave of self-determined leadership. Africa redefining leadership. What we are witnessing is not just a moment, it is the rise of a movement. Leaders like Namibia's president and Burkina Faso's Ibrahim Traoré are rejecting the outdated model of African leadership as proxies for foreign powers. Instead, they are reshaping what it means to lead, with independence, courage, and unapologetic pride in African identity.
President Nandine Ndaitwah has wasted no time in signaling to the West that she is no puppet to be strung along. She's not here to play the game of docile African leaders who've bent the knee to Washington, London, or Berlin. No, comrades, she's here to rewrite the rules. From the moment she took the oath of office on March 21st, 2025, coinciding with Namibia's 35th independence anniversary, she's been a whirlwind of action, a force of nature determined to reclaim her nation's dignity and resources.
This new generation of leadership is not interested in applause from international donors. It seeks to etch a legacy into the continent's own history. It no longer pleads for foreign aid. It demands justice, respect, and sovereignty. In his closing remarks, the Namibian president captured the spirit of this awakening. They called Thomas Sankara a dreamer, but dreams don't die, they multiply. With those words, he didn't just speak to Namibians. He sent a message to every African who dares to imagine a continent in control of its own destiny. A continent no longer dictated to, but rising, united, and unbending. This is more than politics. It's a cultural and ideological shift. Africa is no longer waiting to be saved. It's standing tall, writing its own future, and this time, it's not asking for permission. What we're witnessing isn't just two leaders sharing a microphone. It's the sound of a sleeping continent waking up. For decades, Africa was spoken about, rarely spoken with. But today, voices like Ibrahim Traoré and Namibia's bold new president are flipping the tables. They're demanding respect, not pity, deals, not debt, and most of all, truth, not empty promises. Whether the world listens or not, something has shifted. These aren't isolated speeches, they're signals. Signals that the old ways of doing business in Africa, the extractive deals, the diplomatic games, the foreign military partnerships, are being called out and dismantled. But with boldness comes risk. Will these leaders stand firm in the face of backlash? Will the African Union rally behind them or turn its back? And most importantly, will young Africans, inspired by this wave of courage, rise to protect the future they've long been denied? If you found this moment powerful, share this video. Let the truth travel farther than fear. Drop a comment below. Are we seeing the rise of Africa's new era of independence, or a dangerous clash with the global elite? Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more unfiltered global stories, and join the movement toward a world that finally listens when Africa speaks.